The days continue to roll on and we hurtle inexorably towards skirmish season number 9, so let me share with you what I believe to be perhaps the best deck in the format. Last time we talked, I talked about Emperor, and I said he was one of the best decks in the format. I think he is, and Blaze is better. Blaze is just better. She's perhaps one of the top 3, if not the best deck in the format. So let me show you how good she is, tell you how I built the deck, and walk you through what to expect if you are planning on playing her or playing against her in Blitz Skirmish coming up at the end of August. Starting with her hero effect, she is a wizard hero. She is a young hero. She has 4 intellect and 17 health, so she starts at a disadvantage. That's neither here nor there. We're not playing into that as far as deck construction is concerned. Don't expect any scars, don't expect any rabbles. You could do that. Some people are doing that, but I feel like I'm not going to give my opponent the luxury of blocking with equipment that can block when I am also requiring them to play Arcane Barrier. I'd rather just stonewall all their equipment into doing what they have to do instead of what they also want to do. Either way, what does she do? She says whenever you opt, you put energy counters on Blaze equal to the number of cards you look at. So if you opt 2 via any card effect, then you get to put 2 energy counters on her. If you opt 4, you put 4, and they just stay there until you use them, till the end of the game or until you explode, which you could because you're squishy, you're a wizard. She also says once per turn instant, you remove any number of energy counters from her. So X number removed. If you remove 2 of those, well, then you get to banish a wizard non-attack action card from your hand with an effect that deals arcane damage equal to X. So for example, if you remove 2 energy counters, then you can banish a wizard non-attack that deals 2 arcane damage from your hand, and then you can play it at instant speed. This can happen at instant speed on your turn, which is kind of cool. It can happen at instant speed on your opponent's turn. Now keep in mind, this effect has to target a card in your hand that deals arcane damage. So there's no like Tome of Aetherwind tricks where you can play that at instant speed. Nope, you're just targeting something that deals arcane damage. And you have to have the counters that match the damage it does. So that is one of the deck restrictions that we're playing around with. We have to opt so we can build up counters so we can play things at instant speed. But it's a very, very potent thing that we can do. So let's talk about how we actually go about doing it. Really quickly through the equipment, we are playing Waning Moon because it's the best wizard weapon that we have access to. It deals 2 on our turn and it deals 3 on our opponent's turn. We will oftentimes activate this on our opponent's turn if we have the resources because it's just good value. The best equipment that we have access to for the head right now in this deck is Talismanic Lens, and this card is just a random common from Arcane Rising that I fell in love with many years ago. I played it in Kano for the longest time, and now that it's making its way into Blaze, I'm very happy. Instant destroy it, opt 2, and you could just do this at the beginning of the game before like anything else happens. Well, I guess you'd have to respond to your opponent's like trigger if you're doing it on your opponent's turn, but you can start with this and then just bank 2. Just done. You just have 2 counters right away. You can wait on this. You can kind of like see it out. If your opponent has some things that might try to, like Mechanologist pull our blocks and we don't want to, mess around with that, I guess we could sit it out there. But honestly, it just says 2 free energy counters and sculpt your next hand. It's incredible. Very, very good. Storm Striders, duh. Spellfire Cloak, also duh, but I will say no games in Blitz are going 6 turns, and so Fyendal Spring Tunic getting you 2 counters versus the 1 is a large ask. It's a large ask. So we might as well just run Spellfire Cloak for the 1 resource on our opponent's turn. Oh, by the way, it's got Arcane Barrier 1 as well. Now, you can put in the sideboard the Alluvian Constellus. That is a good option as well. I don't have it there right now, but we'll talk about things you could cut to play Alluvian and have that in the sideboard for the mirror matchup, because I do expect this deck to do quite well in the skirmish season. So expect people to play it. And then finally, Metacarpus Node. This is just a super solid one. Has Arcane Barrier 1, and it's just 1 extra point of damage. Oftentimes it can be 2 on any given turn if you have the resources for it as well. Our base, our resource base, we should talk about that. Up at the very top, I'm running a Kano style resource base of 14 reds and 18 blues with 8 yellow cards splashed in there for good measure. 18 blues seems like a lot. I know a lot of people right now are playing like, I don't know, 17 reds, 18 reds, maybe even more reds than blues, 19. I used to do that. In fact, I should talk about this. This deck was actually hit with a nerf before she really made waves. I mean, she was making waves at like US Nats side events. But this was where I was before. 15 reds, 17 blues, and I had red Aether Flares, blue Aether Flares, and Aether Wildfire, all of which got removed from Blitz. Very thankful that did happen because I think it makes the deck a little bit more down to earth. So I shifted over to a 14 and 18 split, and I'm pretty happy with it. We could drop a blue and add a red, but honestly, I don't care that much. So I'm good with this 40. And remember, in Blitz, you have to stick with 40 cards. You can't go over anymore, which is great as well. I love that. No fat decking. So let's talk about how we're building counters, because again, that is one of the keys to playing Blaze. We have Talismanic Lens. We have 4 copies of Aether Spindle, reds and blues. This opts you X to the damage it deals, and it's a fantastic card. Cindering Foresight both gives you the opt, also gives you the ability to play at instant speed on your opponent's turn, and it deals, well, it adds, I should say, a point of arcane damage to whatever you send. So it incentivizes you to play on your opponent's turn, which we want to do, because if we establish just even 1 Cindering Foresight red, we get 3 energy counters. That enables most of our deck, which is quite nice. And then that, coupled with the +1 damage, and some other cards we'll talk about a little bit later, means we can go very tall very quickly. Other things that give us opt effects and more energy counters. We do play Eye of Ophidia. It's really expensive. If you don't have this card, that's fine. It is better in this deck specifically for the opting than just about any other deck. I mean, Kano, it's arguable because you want the opt to see the top of the deck. But for this deck, it's quite good. If you have it, play it. If you don't have it, don't spend the money and just put another copy of Gaze in. Don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. We'll get through it together. I run 1 copy of Gaze. Oftentimes, this is just a blue block 3, and that's okay. I guess on a 0 card hand, and this in your arsenal, or a 1 card hand, you could play this for the opt 2. And oftentimes, if you have that scenario, that's not a bad play because you want the energy counters. You will find yourself very quickly and very often playing for the right amount of energy counters and using them as efficiently as possible, because the game is going to end in 3 turns and you don't want to have too few, so you want to like prioritize making them. Foreboding Bolt Blue, I'm not playing the reds. They are in the maybe pile at the bottom of the page, but I really like the blues, like a lot. I'll talk about a combo that, well, it's a very natural like synergy. I'll talk about that here in a second, but this card has overperformed like crazy for me. And I might just splash in the reds as well, but 3 counters for 1 opt feels a little weird. I don't know. We might do it. Nevertheless, we also play Whisper of the Oracle, which is just fantastic. You could play the reds, you could play the yellows. I just like the blues because it doesn't mess with my resource base too much. It really strengthens it, in fact. It's a blue block 3 that opts 2, gives us more information off the top of the deck that we'll be drawing into, and gives us 2 energy counters. So those are the main ways, plus the Talismanic Lens, that we build energy counters. Now, what do we do with them? Well, we play Emeritus Scolding and we win the game. No, that's not just what we do, but that is quite good. In fact, I will say Emeritus Scolding, one of the best cards in the deck, because we only have to pay for what it would deal on our turn, that many energy counters. So, for example, if we are going to want to play this Emeritus Scolding blue on our opponent's turn, it says deal 2 arcane damage to target hero. We will pay 2 counters for that. Even though the second part of it says instead deal 4 arcane, we just pay the counters for the 2. That's quite good. That's very good. So we can pay 2 energy counters and 2 resources, of course, to deal 4 damage. And then the red deals 1 billion. Because that's how that reads. In fact, read it for yourself. It says deal 1 billion damage. It's fantastic. Very good. That is 1 card that we just splash out there in red. We also have access to some weird, cool combo lines with Sonic Boom. We're a deck that opts. We know the top of our deck a non-zero amount of times, meaning that we can play Sonic Boom with relative certainty that it will hit. There are misses in the deck, I will say. We will miss if we play run into Whisper of the Oracle. We will miss if we hit 2 energy potions. We will miss if we hit Eye of Ophidia. And technically we'll miss if we hit Kindle. So there are misses. We'll absorb an Aether. See, there's misses in the deck. So this is not the most surefire thing, but we make up for that by opting. And when you land Sonic Boom into anything else, it deals a lot of damage to your opponent, because your opponents in Blitz are not necessarily playing towards a more defensive, I'm going to block your arcane damage game plan, and we punish that. which is quite good. So Sonic Boom's a fantastic card, especially when we buff it off of Metacarpus Node. Chain Lightning also a really, really good overperforming card because you can banish this. And if you've played like Cindering Foresight, you can play a line where you go Cindering Foresight, banish this for 3 energy counters, pay 1 for it, floating 2 resources off a blue, play this, play something like a Prognosticate as well, and then play like the rest of the resources on Waning Moon. That's a very cool line that you can do that costs you 1 blue. That's good. That's pretty good, man. That's 3 damage, 6 damage, 9 damage off of a blue in those cards. It's not the biggest thing you can do, but it's something. That's very cool. And Reverberate also allows us to go a little bit wider. This card, not many people play. I've just been a huge fan of it since Emperor, so I keep including it. And you know what? The combo of Reverberate into Prognosticate with the Waning Moon attached off of a blue feels quite nice. These are the main big things that we do, the big kind of damage turns. We also have the benefit of playing Kindle. Card's really good in all of the wizards, and it's not like the super spiky, you need this card to win, but it just makes the deck better. In everything except Emperor, I will say that. It does not make Emperor better in my opinion. It's too little clunky and yeah, not great. Either way, it's great in Blaze, it's great in Kano and Classic Constructed. Card's really good. I include it in this list. So it's worthy of the red slot. And then finally, to round out sort of the reds and the yellows, we play Absorb and Aether. Again, I'll point this out. This deck was nerfed. It had some bans in it, right? So Aether Flare is now gone and Aether Wildfire is now gone out of Blitz. This is what the deck looked like prior. So it's pretty similar. It had the red Foreboding Bolts in there. I got rid of the Aether Flares and the Wildfires in favor of the Absorb and Aethers, and they are a step down, of course. I mean, those cards are super powerful that we just talked about, but they are quite good still. Now, I play the yellows. The red's great. It's a 1 cost 4 defense reaction that buffs your thing by 2, which is very good. The yellow is a 1 for 3 on the defense reaction side of things, and so I justify it. Some people play the blue. I'm not as big of blue fan. It adds to your blue base, which I guess is great, but I would rather have a 3 block that I have to pay for than a 2 block that I have to pay for. A 2 block that I have to pay for does not feel good. It's not good. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. So even though they both give +2 and that one gives 1 extra resource, I would rather play a yellow that is still pretty good as far as like paying for all of our stuff. That blocks 3, even though I have to pay for it. I mean, it is what it is. So I'm a big fan of the yellow. It's done well for me so far. Other things that we could talk about. The blue base here is predicated on things that can deal 1 and 2 arcane damage. And this one is just the star of the show, the MVP of the deck. The thing that blew me away the most is blue Foreboding Bolt. Why? Well, it recoups itself. It refunds you its energy counter. And it honestly, it's technically a blue for 4, if that makes sense. So what that means is you can pop Talismanic Lens on turn 0. If you have Foreboding Bolt blue in hand and another blue, pop Talismanic Lens, that gives you 2 energy counters. You pay 1 of those to banish Foreboding Bolt. You then play it pitching a blue floating 2 to deal 1 arcane damage and get that energy counter back, so you didn't lose out on anything from this Talismanic Lens. And then you have 2 resources floating to Waning Moon for 3 on your opponent's turn, meaning that it deals 4 damage net and it doesn't cost you any counters. It has been blowing my mind how good that is. Now the red kind of does some similar stuff. It recoups you 1, it deals 3 plus 3 is 6, which is quite good, but you're losing out on 2 counters and you have to have 3 to activate it. And there's a very fine line that you walk with this deck of, especially with the generation that we have. We don't play the potion that generates you counters with opting. We don't do that. So with this base that we have for opting, you're oftentimes playing around with the number and being very efficient with what you choose to banish. Sometimes you just don't do anything on your opponent's turn because you need the counter to stay where it is so that you can add to it just a little bit to really threaten lethal on the next turn. So these types of cards that deal 1 and 2 respectively and then access our Waning Moon are really, really good, which is why we play 18 blues. Circling back around to that resource point, that's why we play that. We don't want to give up too many of these counters, so we want to play some of these like more, low punching cards at times to maintain our counters and then play Waning Moon for damage, and then we blow them up with like these big spells, right? As far as the inventory is concerned, Scour is fantastic in the meta right now for Blitz. If you're playing into Blitz, you need to worry about Illusionist, and all of them play auras that you have to worry about. Both versions of Prism and the 2 Enigmas oftentimes will just play something that you can blow up with Scour, and it's really good against Vincent. I should point this out as I hit the microphone. This deck has been doing quite well for me. 36 matches in, and I'm just random queuing on Talishar. Beforehand, I played a lot of it, and then after the changes that I've made, I've played it a good bit as well, and it's been doing quite well. And I will just say this, the only decks that I'm losing more than once to so far, as I play this more, that could change, are Rhinar, the boogeyman of the format that can kill you on turn 0, fairly consistently, a non-zero amount of times, and Vincent, someone that can block your arcane damage and then kill you very quickly as well, putting like 6 into 6 into just like Revel and Runeblood, you're dead kind of stuff. So this card is actually quite good against Vincent when you take away their rune chance, because you're stopping their damage and you're stopping them from being able to play their big rune gate cards. I play 1 Rewind, and I do so into the matchups like technically you could play it into Briar, though I don't, because I feel like we're just going for the gas. But you can play it against their Channel Mount Heroic and it just destroys them. You can play it for the Mirror, that's a big one. Play this for the Mirror and stop them on their turn, because you take a card from them essentially when they pitch it, and they have to re-pitch if they want to. And in a Wizard Mirror, you want to be holding cards in your hand when your opponent's choosing to act. So this card basically says you either have to decide to full commit and I can blow you up, or you basically pass your turn. So it's very good. It's also very good into Guardian, and there's a good bit of Guardians in this meta, and Shiana is a Guardian as well right now. So this card does some work. It's not hugely important, but it's a nice little gadget card. Fate Foreseen has fallen out of favor with me simply because I find it really good when I need to block, but oftentimes I just win. And when you just win, do you need to block? I mean, seriously. So that's kind of where I'm at. Aether Quickening. Here's the thing. 4 counters is a lot, and I would rather play this card for 4 counters or this card for 4 counters than this card. Now, that's a weird way to say it because, you know, what if you don't have those 2 other cards and you have this one? And I would say, oh, I would probably rather to have like a 0 to 3 in my hand, or like a 1 for 3 than a 1 for 4. So this one has been in the deck since day 1 because I love Aether Quickening and I love the art and I love everything about this card. And it's just sat there and I haven't actually put it into the deck. It's just languishing in the inventory. So I might cut it and play a 2 for 5 like Swell Tidings if I expect the meta to be bigger and like more Arcane Barrier-y, which it probably should be with Blaze doing so well. So maybe this card stays and maybe something else comes out in favor of bigger spell like Swell Tiding. Nevertheless, those are the inventory slots, and these are what I'm thinking about. Clarity Potion I'm kind of iffy on. Another copy of Gaze. The Cindering Blue's probably not coming in, but it does opt 1. Yeah, this is not going to make it in. Oasis is a good choice. Arena's Prayer is great if you're Emperor, but in a deck that has this split and this resource base, it's better to play Oasis. And then Foreboding Bolts, red. This is the #1 card that I'm looking to include in this deck. I might put this in right after this video concludes. So if you want more information on that, check out the Patreon because I will post this and possibly some like comments and things that I've been messing around with and how I'm going to shape the deck. So support me on Patreon and you can get access to my insights further besides just the deck list that I post down in the description as well. So yeah, that's Blaze. I think she's incredible. She's incredible right now. She's very good. And if you're looking to play in a skirmish season that is a Blitz format event, Blaze is a very good option. Blaze, Rhinar, Emperor, Briar, definitely one, and Victor are the top 5 decks in my opinion. I think they are all fantastic and they could win you games very quickly. The Blitz format is huge. It is massive and it is, I would argue, very like well balanced overall. Blaze is just very good because not a lot of people want to play Arcane Barrier anymore. So we punish that and you can punish that. Let me know about the deck build in the comment below. What are you doing with Blaze? Are you doing something similar? Do you have different cards in there? What is your resource base like? Do you play more reds? I want to know in a comment below, and let me know what you think about everything by pressing a button. Like the video, and that number goes up. And the number will go up eventually to a 21,000, which is a very high number, in my opinion. In fact, one of the best numbers. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.